This is personal development coach Teresa Ford.
And LaRae Nelson in the hot seat. And you're listening to
Finding Me, your roadmap to happiness.
You're listening to a live coaching podcast, guiding you through the inner workings of your emotional guidance system so you can more clearly understand who you are, what you want, and how to find your personal satisfaction around health, wealth, love, and self-worth. Get ready to load up on humorous stories, heartfelt conversations, and rock-solid coaching tips. Disclaimer, crying is allowed, a box of tissues is recommended, pants are optional.
Alrighty, so last episode we talked about just catching up on your life and how it caused you to disintegrate to a place that you haven't been in quite a while. You haven't been to that low place where you were feeling sick. You had the death of your father, the death of your husband's grandma, and a son that didn't want to take your advice and was getting married anyway and uninvited you to the wedding. Okay. So, and
that was all in a 3-week period too, by the way.
Right. Okay. So then what do we do? Where do you go from here? How do we get out from underneath a big black cloud that had you thinking dark thoughts about not wanting to go on in life? How do we do that? Well, first of all, like you mentioned that when you had a sedative to help you through the Lyme's disease.
The port placement, yeah. Yes. So they were doing a surgery where they were putting a port into my chest, and so obviously they want you calm because you're awake for a surgery.
Yes.
And so that was administered to me.
Yeah. So I've been in similar shoes where I had chronic fatigue and I had they said I had some sort of a bacteria in my gut. And so I was on heavy doses of therapy to, natural supplements and whatnot to get rid of it. And you don't know how bad you feel until you start to feel better. And so you're just feeling yucky, tired, hurting everywhere all the time. And you just you don't know how bad that is until you start to feel better. Like one day I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better today than I have in, I think, my entire life because I was feeling so bad and I didn't really even know it. It was just a way of life while I was getting better, right? So I can totally see that when you were just feeling crappy and you were trying to navigate your emotions and the thoughts you were having about your son's decision to marry this girl, really, sometimes you just can't navigate that because you can't see yourself. You do need a coach. You need somebody to give you a mirror to hold it up and say, okay, this is what's going on in you. But when you got those antibiotics and the sedative to help you feel better, you were like, oh, life is good. There I am. I'm back.
Yeah, the sedative definitely helped. And again, I'm still learning Lyme.
Yeah.
I'm still learning all the things that I have. And, I started in April with oral antibiotics. Honestly, people can't believe the amount of antibiotics that I take. I am currently on 2 antibiotics that go directly through my heart from the IVs and 3 oral antibiotics.
Yeah.
I'm taking 5 antibiotics.
Yeah.
And when you do that, it causes what's called a Herxheimer reaction. So all this stuff is dying off in your body. It goes into your brain. It goes into your...
It's like being super toxic.
It is super toxic.
Yeah.
And it affects everyone different, but it causes severe joint pains. I get really kind of lethargic and fatigued. Sometimes I get a horrible mind fog where I can't put words together to make sentences.
Yeah.
I can't remember what I was doing. I do believe it compromises my emotions. Like I can't sort them out. Things get wrapped up and then you put all of this on and I'm like, okay, what's because of Lyme? But what's because my dad died? What's because this? It's been overwhelming.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, what do we do? What do we do here?
Right. So when you had the sedative It's interesting because on your Enneagram, that you are a highly personal, individualistic, true to self kind of person. You're self-revealing, emotionally honest. That's why she's in the hot seat.
I'm just being me.
Yeah. Humane. Yeah, literally, you're being you. And you have an ironic view of self and life, and you can be serious, and you can be funny, and you can be vulnerable and emotionally strong. Like, this is like, whoa, she's an amazing individual. Literally, like, you're an individual in the Enneagram, right? And that's when you're actually at your best. That's who you are. You're profoundly creative and expressing the personal and the universal that is in you to express, to share your perspective with the world, right? And that you're inspired and self-renewing and regenerating, and you're able to transform all of your experiences into something valuable. That's you at this high, in line with God-like person. That's who you are. Right?
And that's probably why this started.
It is. Because you needed to turn your life experiences into something that
if it could help anyone.
Yes, that you said that a million times, that if it could just help somebody else while I'm helping myself, it would matter.
Because, again, it's perspective, right? I know my perspective is different from everybody else's perspective. Mm-hmm. But I think if we share how we see things, that's how dialogues happen, and that's how we start to understand each other better. And maybe... hopefully we would be less judgmental. And, you know, I know people are like, I wouldn't share that, but if you need to judge me, go ahead and judge me.
That's not the point of this.
No,
the point
it's
is
not,
let's learn from one another.
I want to share that if it'll help anyone.
Yeah. Because I share anecdotes about me too. So, I mean, we're just being open and honest, and it's not calculated and it's not scripted. So, but the point of you sharing all that you have shared in the last episode about how you had dark thoughts and you were taken down to a place where when you feel powerless and you're backed in the corner, you'll pull out the knives, right? And that's when you're talking about harming yourself or not wanting to go on or can't see your future or the loss of enthusiasm for life, you've pulled out the knives.
Oh, you know? For sure.
And you're and there's a small part of you that's still going to battle, and that's the reason you were able to say something. People that are in despair, they don't pull out the knives. They just sit in the corner and die. Literally. They find a way out. So the fact that you pulled out a few knives and you showed up and you talked about it, that was so important, because you can only go up from there. You don't usually stay in a corner when you know you have support and you know it's a safe place and you can talk about it. So that's why it's really important to talk about these subjects, because if you're not talking about it, there's no place else to go. And that's where hopelessness and despair show up, right? So I'm so grateful that you're talking about it. It's a really important topic, because there's no reason for somebody to feel like they can't talk about it. And it's not that a lot of people don't have support in their lives, but they're ashamed, and the shame is what keeps them quiet.
Well, and I was staying quiet.
Yes, you were.
I was fighting it, like,
because the part of you,
I was holding it in there, and I was like, I can take care of this, and you know, I can deal with this, and I got this, and I don't like this person, and I know I can change her, and this and that, and then again, like, when I ended up in bed, it crumbled on me, and I literally had a come apart of snot and tears and blubbering and
with a massive headache at the end.
Oh, massive headache, eye burn, you name it. It all literally erupted out of me again.
Yes. And that is your gift of self-awareness, is what told you, I don't want to be like this because I'm not like this. That was actually you in a dark place, giving yourself the benefit of the doubt in a hard place, right? You're like, this is not who I am. And so how do you get back to who I am? You know, quote unquote, I am, right? I am is another name for Jesus Christ, FYI. And so when you say, who am I? Or, you know, how do I get back to who I am? You're asking yourself, how can I be more like Jesus?
Yep.
That is what you're asking yourself. And the only reason that you would ever have a beef with somebody else is because you are not like you. And you, when you're like you, are like Jesus. Like God. Happy, light, love, purity. Like, it's just the goodness in you. Right? So then you're like, okay, if Jesus was here, and boy, do I wish he was, and I'm looking at my son, how do I see him in his life and who he is? Because he is not a 4. He's not an individual. He is a 2. He's a helper. How do I see him the way God sees him? Because God created him to be like this.
Right.
God created him to be a sensitive young man. Right? Trying to navigate life for the first time, not sure how, when he has a mother that is incredibly emotionally strong, and that's not his strong suit. So now he's like kind of getting bowled over by it and trying to deal with and manage where that goes, right? And you're like, I'm not a mother that bowls over my children. I'm a mother who loves my children. So how do I get back to being the mother who loves my children? And it is literally you channeling Jesus.
Oh, you don't know how much prayer. I think my purse is sitting over there right beside you. If you were to reach in there right now, there's a whole book on forgiveness and the biblical forgiveness that I'm in right now and that I'm reading because, again, I know where I want to be. And I get frustrated with myself that I can't get there.
Okay.
Like right now.
This is
and then I got to step back and say, no, you are in a process of, I am a work of God until I go to heaven. I am a continual making and, he's shaping my form and the good and the bad and the ugly. So I have to let the conviction happen. I have to, my prayers are that he will open up my heart and show me who and where I'm failing and where he needs me to be.
Yes.
And so I have always prayed for my son and I have always prayed for the woman that he married. And right now my prayer is just a very simple, I hope that they are putting God first in their marriage. I hope that they can be there for each other. And I hope that, Lord, she's got her eyes on you and that you can help her with the stuff that she's dealing with. That's about the most I can give right now.
Did you hear the prayer you just gave, you offered for yourself? Don't you just love that? It's always a mirror. My son, he called me out. I'm like, hey, don't you coach the coach. I was talking to him. I had actually had a bad dream about him, and I wanted him to, be happy. I was afraid that he hadn't forgiven himself, right? And so I called him up. I'm like, I had a bad dream about you, and I'm just, he's like, well, what was that about? I was like, I'm hoping that you have forgiven yourself for things that we've talked about. And he's like, are you sure that wasn't about you? And he's like,
yeah, I'm sure.
You're projecting on me right now, Mom. I was like, oh. It's like, you know what? Because very similar. I had been having thoughts. My mind wandered to the past, the times that I wasn't loving in my life, that, I wasn't loving me in my life. And he was right. That's where my thoughts were. I went to sleep that night. I had a dream. I put it on him, projected, called him up, and he's like, nope, that's you. I'm good. I'm doing great, Mom. I was like, oh, okay. Oh, good to know. That's me. And here's one more example. Also, as I was having a conversation with somebody, and so we were going through her I am list, and we're like, I am. And so she was doing pretty good, like better than I thought she was going to be able to do. And she was just like listing them off, and we had like 40 things. And you try and get 100 in your I am list. When you feel like I am loving, I am kind, and you know it all, like you believe it all. It's in your knowing to believe it.
And let me tell you, Teresa will call you out on words that are like fluff words. She's like, no, give me something better.
I didn't hear it. You're not a believer yet.
I don't believe you yet.
So we were going through it, right? And I was like, well, what about forgiving? She's like, yeah, I don't think so. She's like, I want to be a forgiving person. But it's like every man that's ever come into my life has just twisted my life into a knot and just made it miserable. And I'm working on being forgiving towards them. And I said, it's not them. You're working on being forgiving towards you. Of course, the tears. It was a flood. And she's like, I can't believe that just invokes such a massive reaction out of me to think that, oh my gosh, it is me. It is me. It's not them. Like, they're not in charge of my happiness. I allowed those men in my life, and it's me that I have to forgive for not knowing better at the time. So that was a powerful conversation. So it's exactly what you're saying. You're saying, I'm working on forgiving him, but you're actually working on forgiving you for not being more like yourself through this whole thing. And there's the tears. So, but it's only hard to forgive yourself when you don't feel worthy of it because you've acted in a way that you're not proud of. That's where shame comes in. That's why it keeps us quiet. It's what keeps us down. Shame is a tough one because it's the silencer. And if there's enough shame, we'll just stop fighting. Even if we're in a corner, we'll just shrivel up and die, right?
Yeah, because that's like the thing I'm most upset about.
Yeah.
Is that I couldn't. So how do I say, like, you know this because you have several kids and married off and stuff like that. And you always have this, again, we're going to go into this, what you think you want it to be, right? Because I have two sons, I wanted to be close to a daughter-in-law. I wanted to be excited about a wedding. I wanted to help plan a wedding and be involved and be happy. That's what weddings should be, right? I felt none of that. And I don't like...
You got ripped off.
I don't...
you felt like you got
It's
gypped.
feeling ripped off, but it's like... Did I rip myself off because I wasn't being my true, like I don't like the person that I am with all of this.
Yes.
And I feel bad because I know that my son was hurting.
Yes.
Because I couldn't, quote unquote, get it together.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to hurt her. It's not about hurting her.
Right. Because you're not that person.
I don't want to be that person.
Right.
And
well,
I
you're not
know
that person.
That's why I was like, if you guys don't want me at the wedding, I'm fine. Because I don't want to be there to hurt you.
Right.
I don't want to be there to ruin your day.
Right.
And it is and has been this like horrible place to be of it's so not me.
Yeah.
But I can't shake it.
Yeah.
And then I'm frustrated. And then it has had me questioning like, what did I do wrong? Could I have done better? And now, again, you've been thinking about you. I've been thinking about you, but it's been okay, so moving forward, because I can move forward, how do I engage with my kids where I ask the right questions and I can be one that can snap to, like, what do you mean you got an F on a test?
Right.
Did you not study? Did you not? And instead... Because that's kind of my snap reaction.
Yes.
Stepping back from that and interacting with my sons better where I ask better questions and get better out of them so that they're better prepared. Because I fully believe that my oldest is, he's 19.
Yes.
He is not emotionally mature.
He might be 16 or 14 because boys develop and mature slower.
Right. His emotional maturity is nowhere near where it's gonna be.
Yeah. Yes.
And I want to guide him, right? And help him, but I don't always do it in the best way. But then we try and we come back and it's like,
Yes.
And he's been great. Yeah. I do have to give credit to him because him and I have stuck this through. And never once has he said unkind words to me. We've always tried to keep it because I never wanted to drive him away.
Right.
Ever. But I also explained to him why I couldn't be there and why I can't do it. And that I'm sorry, I'm not where I need to be. And this isn't about you. This is about me. And I need to be, I'm praying on this. I'm praying for, God to work on my heart. I have some growth that I have to do.
Yes.
So.
Yes. And there it is. And when you are able to realize that you're worthy of forgiveness, no matter how you've acted, it does not matter what that looks like in your eyes. Because many of us, like most of us, have disintegrated to a place of what we might refer to as abominable behavior, right? It's just like, I just can't believe I went there.
Yeah, I feel horrible that I went to their wedding. I could barely talk to anybody. And to be perfectly honest, at their wedding, I couldn't look at them. I looked past them at Pine Valley.
Yeah.
I couldn't watch it.
Yeah.
I couldn't look up. I couldn't.
And that's part of, I didn't get the wedding I wanted for my son.
I probably, in my head, I'm like, I'm mad at myself that I couldn't give my son what he needed. He needed a mom that wasn't
emotionally involved with the decision per se, but rather more involved in his happiness.
Yeah. Because everybody always says, and it's a frustrating line for me right now, is, well, you just want him to be happy. Isn't their happiness the most important? And yes, I want him to be happy, and his happiness is important, and that, but for whatever reason, I can't come to that point yet.
Yeah. You're on your way. The very first step is the breakdown. It is. The first step is Controlzilla blowing up. And the second step is this place that you're in right now is humbling yourself and realizing that you need to take care of you. That it's not about him. It's you wanting to forgive you. And it's easy to do when you get out of your own way, because you're worthy of being forgiven, and you need to also move on from that. Anytime we feel negative emotions, it has something to do with the past or what hasn't happened yet. It doesn't have anything to do with the present. The present is the only place you're living all the time. You're never living in the future. You're never living in the past. You're always right here. And so right here in this moment, you can recognize that the past was not your favorite place to be, and it never will be, because you never have to live there again. Does that make sense? You're not living in the past. You don't have to review it. You don't have to shame yourself for it. You don't have to flog yourself emotionally about it. You can just acknowledge it, apologize to yourself, accept your apology, and then learn from it. It's not to say it's never going to happen again, because you're going to have lots of life experiences that help you practice this. But you can know that it won't go that far next time, because you'll know how you really want to be. Because you know what you don't want to be, right? You don't want to turn into Controlzilla, but you do know, and you will align yourself with who you actually are. So let me read you this. That you are self-aware, introspective, on the search for self, aware of feelings and inner impulses, sensitive and intuitive both to self and others, gentle, tactful, and compassionate. So gentle, tactful, and compassionate, the GTC, if you will, of your Enneagram type, loves everybody. She understands where they're coming from. Right? She understands, and she is all about giving grace. She's all about giving space, giving people room to make mistakes, room to grow, room to understand who they are and what they want through life experiences, just like you are. So when you are her, then you're just hugs and love. That's it. They show up on your doorstep unannounced. Get in here. Big squeeze for you, big squeeze for you. And you're all about, like, hanging on to them. It's like, you guys got this. You'll figure it out. Well, let me know if I can help, kind of thing. You're not the kind of person that pushes them away and says, I need a break from y'all.
And it's so weird, though. I do that with just about everyone but them.
Yep. And that's just you getting in the way of you. That's not them. It's not them. They're young. They'll figure stuff out. We all did dumb stuff as young people, but we figured out what we wanted or didn't want, right?
Right.
But we were still sifting and sorting as adults. So we sift and sort through this and we figure out what we do want and go from there. But you have to forgive yourself every day. It's like, whoo, that was a challenge. Glad I'm beyond it. And I learned, thank you for the grace. Because the grace is there for you. It's not for everybody else. It's for you. Right? Christ atoned for your sins, my sins, individuals. And so if you don't apply it to yourself, then it's not really doing you any good. He's like, lay your burdens down at my feet. And you're like, no, I got it. I'll carry him around with me. I'll just heap him on my back, even though it's crippling me.
I know. I've been working on that. That's been part of it, too, is just giving him the control.
Give him the control. Yeah. Just sit back and enjoy it. Enjoy the view. Like you're going to watch your son have highs and lows, and you're like, buddy, you got this. You're going to be all right. Right? You take care of you. She'll take care of her. You got this. Because that's your best advice to you.
Yeah.
When you give your best advice to somebody else, it's always your best advice to you because you're looking at things through your perspective, and whatever comes to your mind about what they need is exactly what you need. It's just a mirror. People are our mirrors. They're holding up their...
Is it okay, though, like in this time where I just gave us some distance and some space, because I don't want to say things that I don't mean, that I can't undo, but I need time to figure this, like what we're talking about right now, out.
Absolutely.
And at this time, we just need some space.
Yes.
Because I've got to figure this out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So gentle, tactful, and compassionate. I want you to write those down and stick them everywhere on a sticky notes. Your GTC. I am gentle, tactful, and compassionate. And if I were to say something right now to a random person on the street, my true self would be gentle, tactful, compassionate. My kids call and they just want to talk about everything, and in my head I'm like, that's dumb, that's not going to work, that's really a bad idea. Gentle, tactful, and compassionate will be the one that responds. You will never, ever regret being gentle, tactful, and compassionate. Never. Never. There's nothing to forgive about those three things. Those are the things you aspire to be all the time. And that means that you are lined up. Your head and your heart are now working together to be lined up. And whenever you do that, it is like fireworks. It's just like, I feel amazing. That felt so good. I love that I was able to turn this into something that was a win-win, because you win every time you make somebody else feel good. Every single time. If you feel small while making somebody else feel good, didn't quite make it there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you take yourself out of it, it's like, well, I guess nobody's going to ask about me. I just asked about them the whole time. We didn't nail it. That's not it.
And it's so... that saying, you hurt the ones you love the most. This is where I feel like the biggest issues will come with like the people that I'm closest to.
Mm-hmm. But see, you are so authentic that you're only being your true self authentically when you feel good and they feel good. That's it. If you feel bad and they feel good, didn't nail it. If they feel bad and you feel bad, didn't nail it. Right? You feel good when you help them feel good. And that's not to say I agree with everything that you're doing. It's to give them support to figure out what will and won't work for themselves and allow them the opportunity, the same one you've been granted, to make mistakes.
Right.
Yeah. And when you do that, it is a game changer. You become the person they needed most, not because you told them what to do, not because they were in agreement with your advice, but because they want to be like you, which was somebody who cares without judgment.
Yep.
There you go. I think we just came out the other end of the funnel. Really good stuff. It's important that we become more like ourselves. It's important that we rise above the stress. And the stress is coming from our thoughts. We can get our thoughts out of the way and get our thoughts lined up with the heart that we have, the spirit, the true spirit of who we are, who is pure love and light, goodness and knowledge. Get lined up with her, and you'll be golden. There's any way
Wish it could just happen overnight.
I know. It kind of can. It kind of can. So you just gotta, gentle, tactful, and compassionate. Put it everywhere. And when you respond, make sure it comes out gentle, tactful, and compassionate for both parties.
I may not be talking for a while.
You can do it. I have faith in you. If there's anything that I can do to help you, you can contact us at TeresaFordCoaching@gmail.com, or you can reach out to my Facebook or Instagram page at TeresaFord.coaching.
Bring some Kleenex.
Have a great day.